Hi all, in this beginner guide we talk about everything you need to know when starting out in Enshrouded. No matter your experience with survival games, Enshrouded comes with its own set of unique mechanics and important essentials that are helpful to understand before diving in. And while the game does a relatively good job at guiding you through the basics, if you are like us, rushing around doing 10 things at a time, then it's easy to miss some key explanations, pop-ups, or simply to get overwhelmed. By the way, this guide focuses on the gameplay basics and we try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible. We really spoil as little as possible of the many cool places, more exciting gear, features and discoveries that should be yours to experience firsthand. It's a true beginner guide, and if you find it helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe as we have more dedicated guides and tips on our channel. Now, let's get started with game modes and settings. While Enshrouded has been developed with co-op in mind, it's possible to play the entire game in single player. Alternatively, you can either host a server for friends yourself, rent a server, or jump into one of the available online servers. And depending on the server, co-op can support up to 16 players. When playing solo or hosting your own server, you also have the option to adjust various gameplay settings, either by selecting one of the presets or by adjusting the settings in more detail. From XP gain and enemy difficulty to resource respawn rates and many more. Personally, we tend to play games on default settings to get the full experience, which is usually quite balanced without being too easy. However, if you want to relax and are mostly into building, or maybe you want a tougher challenge, then you have the freedom to customize. Looking back, the default setting was the right call for us, and it might be a good starting point for you as well. And unrelated from which server and difficulty you play on, and as one should expect, the game offers keyboard and mouse customization as well as controller bindings. In addition to that, there's a good number of accessibility options that let you adjust things like text scale, screen shake, hide spiders and so on, which is appreciated. Now, a quick word about playing with others. While your character progression, skills, gear and inventory are all personal, the general world and main story progression is tied to the server. That means that if other players on your server complete quests that drive the story forward, unlock new NPCs, recipes or locations, then those will be automatically unlocked for everyone on that server. Speaking of which, if you want to experience key quests for yourself when joining others, there's a feature called Missed Quests that allows you to complete important quests even if others have already completed them before you. However, the guaranteed best first experience for you is either to play with a group that progresses together or to start your own solo game. Now, we mostly played co-op, and we felt that quest updates and completion could sometimes be a bit wonky. Sometimes one of us reading a lore note or picking up an item would update for us both, and sometimes not. The general rule is that you have to be fairly close to get updates, let's say invisible name tag range. Other than that, if you play closely together with a friend or friends, make sure to shout out red glowing lore items, so everyone can interact with them and update their lore journal. There are also some items that are picked up or crafted that might only update for the person doing it. It could be quest items, but it's often related to the collectible items found under sets in your journal, and discovering them actually gives you some XP and sometimes recipes, so it's worth making sure that everyone gets credited. Beyond potentially sharing such items later through a chest, if you're out and about, we frequently use the gifting feature to share select unique and lore items, since it can be easy to forget and do it later. Alternatively, if you're not always playing teamed up, you can also take your character to a single player server to play through some of the story there, and then join the co-op server again later. Your character retains its progress and inventory whenever you hop servers, so you're not stuck on one. One of the first things the game will ask you to do is to claim a spot of land and establish a base. To do that, you need to build a flame altar, and that simply requires 5 stone. While the spot the quest marks on your map is merely a suggestion, we recommend building your altar there, as it's more important to get going and progress than worrying about the perfect spot early on. But there's more to flame altars. For one, there's an option to upgrade the altar, which essentially allows you to extend your buildable area. The second most important option is the ability to strengthen the altar's flame. Once you have the required materials, you can increase the flame level, and with each level, it increases the number of altars you can have, your Shroud passage level, the time you can spend in the Shroud, and your character attribute bonuses. Strengthening your flame is not only key to get stronger, but also for progression across the map and being able to access more areas. The requirements are usually a mix of resources from inside and outside the Shroud, sparks which can be collected from flame shrines and flame sanctums, and later also the number of survivors you have freed, as well as drops from major bosses. And lastly, the flame altar is also the place where you can respec your skills. For the cost of runes, a currency that can be obtained from select fell enemies, chests and from salvaging unwanted weapons and gear, you can reset all of your skills as often as you like. The respec cost is tied to the number of skill points you have spent, so if you have spent 20 skill points, then it takes 20 runes to reset them. Speaking of the perfect base location, there are a few things to keep in mind. The more you progress, the more flame altars you can build. And in addition to claiming buildable land, flame altars also double as fast travel points. That means you can have multiple bases or simply multiple altars dotted across the map that allow you to quickly teleport to an area. In our opinion, there's no perfect base location, and it's more down to personal preference and where you want to build in terms of the landscape. There is one exception, and that's maybe height, but we'll talk more about that in a bit. What is also helpful in the very beginning is to have water nearby, and since there's a well not far from the game's suggested build spot, that's another reason to simply start out there. Now, whether you build your permanent base or move somewhere else later, there are a few essentials you need. The first thing you should craft after the flame altar is a workbench. Don't worry where you place it, as you can always pick up items and place them elsewhere later. The workbench allows you to craft some key items and also serves as a repair station. Tools and weapons you use do lose durability over time, and interacting with a workbench automatically repairs all your items at no cost. In the world, you can also come across anvils, typically in small settlements or underground crypts and cellars, that allow you to repair items as well. In order to build a small base, you first need to craft a construction hammer and a few building blocks. Over the course of the game, you can unlock an insane number of different building blocks that let you realize your most creative and elaborate building dreams. At the start though, simply choose either stone or wood blocks, depending on what you prefer to gather. In your crafting menu, you can craft a basic axe and pickaxe to get you started with resources, as well as a tiny backpack that will expand your inventory when equipped. On that topic, storage is slot and stack size based and not weight based. And being great at hoarding, we appreciate that. Though rest assured, your backpack will fill up fast in either case. Once you have made several building blocks, craft a construction hammer, equip it, and hit tab to enter build mode. To find the shape you want to build, you might have to press Alt to see a wider selection of shapes. And should you have more than one type of building block on you, then you can also select the materials. It's also worth noting that the building materials required are linked to the block size. Because of that, though depending on stability needs and your build, you might be able to save resources by, for instance, using ceiling pieces as your flooring. They are significantly smaller and thereby cheaper than foundations, making it a way to reduce your building costs. What we found extremely helpful when building is the option to undo the last handful of changes. So while limited, it has saved us a lot of time. With your first little base in place, make sure to build a few chests for storage, a mattress or bed so you can recover health and sleep through the night, as well as a fireplace for warmth and cooking food. This brings us to our next topic, the rested bonus. In Enshrouded, you get a rested bonus whenever you are in a safe environment, have warmth and are either sheltered, sitting or sleeping. The bonus increases your max stamina and stamina regeneration and scales with your level. In addition to the bonus strength, there is also the duration of the rested buff that is tied to your comfort level. Comfort is provided by items you can place in your base, like lights, furniture, fireplaces, as well as decorations, and the bonus they provide varies depending on the item. The more and better items you place, the more your comfort increases, and each comfort level adds 1 minute to the duration of your rested bonus. Since pretty much any activity requires stamina in-game, from combat to mining, to chopping wood or traversing the world, it's extremely important to top up your rested bonus wherever and whenever you can. And increasing your comfort level and having, for example, half an hour rested bonus instead of 10 minutes can make a big difference as well. There's also the well-rested skill you can unlock very early, and depending on how many points you invest, this can give you between 2 and 6 additional minutes, which is a nice extra bonus. Now, since we're talking bonuses, let's touch base on food buffs. By default, you can have up to 3 food buffs, and as with the rested bonus, it's recommended to maintain them whenever you can, as they can give you some great boosts. There are various food types in game, like for instance meat, fruits, mushrooms or liquids, and you can only have one of each type active at a time. So for example, you can't have 2 different meat buffs, but you can have 1 meat, 1 fruit and 1 liquid buff. Early on, you can easily collect purple berries from bushes which give you a bonus to health regeneration. Penny bun mushrooms for a magic damage bonus. Lean meat from rats, goats or rabbits, as well as wolf meat from, you guessed it, wolves, which all provide a health bonus. Or honey, that's collected from beehives in trees and gives you a good bonus to stamina regeneration. As a rule of thumb, cooked food will always give you a higher bonus than raw food. And don't even think about eating raw meat, since that will give you a debuff. While you can unlock cooking stations later, in the beginning you can sit by a campfire or fireplace, select the food from your action bar and hold your left mouse button to cook. Don't burn your food though, otherwise you'll get tar, but if it happens, keep it, you'll need tar for other things later. Another easy buff you can get for extra stamina and stamina regeneration is by drinking water. To top up water on the go, simply craft a water pouch and fill it at a well or lake. There's a well in the abandoned settlement just a few steps from where we built the starter base. There's one little catch though, food buffs as well as the rested bonus do not persist throughout death. If you die, you need to rest and eat again. Easy to forget, but important to remember. On that topic, hidden further down in the skill tree, there are 2 skills. One that gives you a 4th slot for a food buff, and another one that makes food buffs persist through death. However, both are very much out of reach in the beginning, and not something you should focus on. When it comes to traversing and exploring the world of Enshrouded, there are several things that can make your life easier. First off, the grappling hook and glider, which you can craft as soon as you have placed a workbench. Both the grappling hook and glider are incredibly useful for traversal, and some areas may even require them to solve certain puzzles. To craft the grappling hook, you'll need a few shroud spores, which you can easily get by defeating enemies in the small shroud patches around the starter area, or in the bigger shroud area to the north. You'll have to go there either way, because the glider also needs shroud wood, and for that you'll need to venture into that bigger shroud area and chop some trees. You will also be able to unlock and craft upgraded versions of both later on, as you unlock new higher tier materials and recipes. Regarding the glider, we highly recommend that you invest points into the skill Updraft as soon as you can, as it will allow you to gain additional height while gliding, which makes it possible to traverse longer distances. And another useful skill on the tree in that direction is Airborne, which reduces the stamina consumption of gliders. In each biome, you will also find something called an Ancient Spire, and we highly recommend unlocking them whenever you enter a new zone. These tall towers require you to solve some puzzles across several floors in order to reach the top. But once there, you unlock the spire's own fast travel point. Thanks to their immense height, teleporting to a tower allows you to glide to almost anywhere in its surrounding area. Remember that we said earlier that you could build several additional flame altars. Well, we recommend always having at least one unused altar, so that you can build it as a spontaneous fast travel return point whenever you travel. Simply collect 5 stone and place an altar in an area where you want to farm some resources, or might face a dangerous challenge. Placing an altar gives you a convenient teleport option back to that location whenever you die, or when you have briefly been home to empty your inventory and repair. Once you don't need the altar anymore, simply select the deactivate option and it will disappear within 30 seconds. This brings us back to base locations. Building somewhere up high can be an advantage as it provides you with an additional point from which you can glide from. However, the option to build multiple altars as fast travel points somehow negates this, so we wouldn't say it's essential. And lastly, the world of Enshrouded is destructible, meaning you often can quite literally dig yourself out of sticky situations or climb up a steep hill by just using your pickaxe. You can even destroy many walls and doors of buildings, so keep that in mind when running out of lockpicks or when trying to find an alternative way to reach a location. Okay, let's talk about the Shroud. When entering an area that's enshrouded, you will notice a timer at the top of your screen that starts ticking down. This is the time you have left to survive in the Shroud. Once it reaches 0, you die instantly. Each biome requires a specific Shroud passage level, which is the level you increase by strengthening your flame. If your level is too low for an area, the Shroud appears pink instead of bluish and will kill you within seconds of entering. In addition to increasing your Shroud passage level, strengthening the flame will also extend the time you can spend in the Shroud, so it's yet another important reason for focusing on it. Alternatively, you can extend your time in the Shroud by unlocking select skills, resetting your time at respawn beacons within the Shroud, or by consuming items. For example, hourglass capsules you can find within the Shroud will reset your time, and Shroud survival flasks will extend your time. However, the flasks need to be consumed before you enter the Shroud, otherwise they won't work. And on that topic, don't hesitate to use what you come across and loot you get. We tend to hoard things, but things are rarely worth hoarding, so use what you find. Shroud areas in the game have their own unique items that can only be acquired from enemies, creatures or resources within the Shroud. And there are also unique points of interest like elixir wells that are key for progression. Last but not least, when in the Shroud, you are not able to fast travel nor build flame altars, so always be aware of your surroundings and a possible exit when time runs out. Leveling in Enshrouded can, at least in the very early game, feel a bit slow, but in short, XP is gained from defeating enemies, mining resources, uncovering new locations and points of interest, reading lore and completing quests or item sets. Occasionally, you can also find experience scrolls when looting, which give you a flat 100 XP when consumed. You will acquire skill points whenever you level, and additionally, you can unlock skill points when destroying Shroud roots. Shroud roots within an elixir well reward 3 skill points and outside of a well 1 point. However, skill points from Shroud roots are one-off and not repeatable. Now, when it comes to progression, then one of your main goals should be unlocking new survivors. The game initially tasks you with finding the blacksmith, but there are many more NPCs you can rescue. Survivors like the blacksmith are essential, as once stationed at your base, they unlock new crafting recipes, item upgrades, workstations and quests that give you further goals, advance the story and overall progression. And should you ever feel stuck and unsure what to do next, then your best friend is your quest log. Quests are divided into main and side quests, and the color of a quest indicates the difficulty, like green for easy, yellow for moderate, and so on. Discovering new resources or crafting new recipes you have unlocked can also lead to further unlocks at your crafting stations. So make sure to gather and pick up everything that's new to you, and craft anything you can at least once. Well, at least anything that's a resource or item that could be used for something else. Newly unlocked recipes are always highlighted with a small yellow icon in the crafting category and directly on the item. By the way, if you were wondering, there are dungeons in the game, or how Enshrouded likes to call them, hollow holes. These crypt-type locations can be found in various biomes, and the first of them is located in Springlands, the starter biome. They span across several floors underground and offer challenging encounters with unique enemies, loot, lore and collectibles. While they are aimed at groups, there's nothing stopping you from doing them solo as long as you're geared up accordingly. In general, getting to the end can be a lengthy adventure, and by that we mean potentially hours. However, there are various checkpoints, and if you need to take a break, it's possible to log off inside the dungeon and the game will spawn you at the last respawn beacon you have visited within the hollow holes when logging back in. Since we have talked progress, we also need to quickly touch base on death. Dying in Enshrouded is not particularly punishing, as you don't lose XP, skill progress or anything like that. When you die, you will simply drop unrefined resources and crafting materials from your backpack. You will keep everything you have equipped, things slotted on your action bars, and even items like weapons, armor, ammunition or potions will remain in your backpack. Upon death, a tombstone will spawn at the location where you died, and allows you to pick up everything that's been dropped. And if you die after jumping from greater heights, your tombstone will usually be at the point where you jumped or fell off, not at the location of impact. Okay, so what about gear? Well, first off, whenever you find or can craft some armor, even if it seems like nothing exciting, do it. Anything that gives you some extra stats helps. Even the ragged starter gear is better than the stuff you spawn in. Armor, weapons and accessories in Enshrouded exist in traditional quality tiers, from common white to uncommon green, rare blue, epic purple and legendary orange. The better the quality, the better the item. However, that doesn't mean that a higher level rare item can't be better than a lower level epic item. So keep in mind that the item level, base stats and bonuses can complicate comparison. And as in this example, unless you're going down the wizard tree, the rare ring is the better one stat-wise. Seeing that better quality items offer additional upgrade tiers, it could also mean that some items only show their true potential when fully upgraded. To upgrade an item, you need to speak with a survivor that specializes in the combat class for that item. For example, the blacksmith upgrades warrior equipment, while other NPCs can upgrade items for rangers or mages. The cost for upgrades is runes, the same currency you need for resetting your skills. And for high-end gear, some tiers typically also require legendary runes instead of regular ones. Now, when it comes to which skills or weapons to use, then this depends entirely on your playstyle. As mentioned earlier, respeccing isn't very costly, so we recommend to experiment a bit. And you can also freely combine skills from various different specializations. Of course, if you always play with a friend or in a group, then it might make sense for some of you to specialize as a team's tank, support or range damage dealer to complement each other. However, there are some universal skills that can be helpful to pick right away or early on. Like for example double jump. This one is a must-have for easier traversal. There are also some skills that help you with resource gathering. And then there's of course updraft for your glider, which we mentioned earlier. And to make you less squishy, it can be very helpful to pick some early skills that give you extra constitution. Even if you don't intend to become a warrior or guardian, 1 point equals 50 health, which is a lot in the beginning. Just keep in mind that you won't be able to unlock each and every skill, as there's a cap on points you can earn. That cap might change though if the game releases major updates that increase the max level cap. In regards to weapons, it's similar to skills. Feel free to experiment with what you like. Different enemies have weaknesses against different damage types though, so keep an eye on your damage output when fighting different opponents. And lastly, even if you are an enthusiast of melee combat, make sure to always have a wand and preferably also a bow with you as backup. This will not only allow you to reach annoying flying enemies, but also to attack from range and keep distance in sticky situations. And you will also need a bow for some of the puzzles you can find in game. When it comes to crafting, you might have asked yourself, why is there no crafting from storage in this game? Well, the good news is there actually is, but it's linked to the type of storage you're using. Once you have rescued the blacksmith, you will have unlocked quite a few new recipes, and one of them is for a small magic chest at your workbench. While magic chests come in the same sizes as their normal counterparts, and require them to be crafted, any item placed into a magic chest can automatically be accessed by workstations and also your construction hammer for building. So as soon as you can craft magic chests, it's a huge quality of life upgrade. If there's one advice we would give you as a new player, then it's to loot, loot and loot. Smash any container, loot every chest, pick up anything that's not nailed down, or wait, also pick up everything that's nailed down. New items or lore can unlock new recipes, new quests, or even just mark new locations on your map. In short, interact with everything and salvage any and all weapons you or your friends don't need to save up on runes. This should cover pretty much all essentials you should be aware of when starting your playthrough. As mentioned in the beginning, we wanted to keep it as spoiler free as possible and focus on the key game mechanics and how they work. And hey, if you found this guide helpful, please don't forget to leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, subscribe or become a member of our channel.